Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever it is you are in the world, and welcome to another edition of the Living World of Darkness. This evening, we find ourselves not in New York City, but rather in Europe. After the information of the untimely demises of Dr. Howard Softly and Calypso Gainsborough, the Malkavian and Bruja Primogens, as well as the defection of the Ventru Primogen in John Voorhees DuPont, Federico, the Nosferatu Archon, after getting information from one Mr. Silas the Seneschal of New York, has gotten into contact with, well, the only person that he knows to in a situation like this. Federico calls Hodgstadt mostly for other instances on the East Coast, and it's here that we start our scene. The Skype call at the moment is going through to a direct line towards one Hardstadt. And here we start our scene.
As the ghoul sets up, as the Skype call is pending, all of a sudden the camera goes on, and you see Hardstadt sitting in front of the camera. Ghoul, are you sure this thing is working? Yes, sir, I suppose. Huh. Oh, yes, it is.
Ah, sir, it is good to see you again.
Yeah, I suppose I should say the same.
Well, you asked me to inform you when the situation in Boston changed. I'm
Yeah.
afraid that it has not changed for the better.
I was hoping for good news.
Unfortunately, our prince there has met his end.
Is
His
that
seneschal, yes, his seneschal is rather frantic at the moment, as it seems the Sabbat are barking at their doors, quite literally. I'm going to assume that he was referring to Gangrel at the doors.
Oh, God, these bloody savages. And you see the face of Farshad for a moment going blank as he processes. Well, it's supposed, and we need to send in some help. We cannot afford to lose Boston. Nor am I willing.
Well then, who would you send us to help out on this side?
Oh, I have already someone in mind. I think our good Justicar from the Ventru line is probably heading that way anyway. And who else? Why don't we give Mr. Bell something to do to cool off his temper?
Well, if you're going to be sending Bell over this way, maybe I should inform you of the situation in New York.
What situation in New York?
There's Seneschal, my man on the inside, Silas.
Uh-huh.
He's been feeding me information for quite a while. And at the moment, we know of at least 2 Primogen deaths. And the Bruja and the Malkavian Primogens have both met their final deaths. As well as, you recall that I told you about the traitor Marquez, the Toreador Primogen.
Yes, we remember.
And you see the hesitation in Federico's face as he kind of scratches underneath his neck. And it also seems that Jonathan Voorhees DuPont may have turned traitor and gone over to the Sabbat.
You see Hardstadt not reacting at all. And all of a sudden, something flies in front of the camera as he throws something at the ghoul. Gottverdammtes! Pardon me. That is... And he picks something up from the floor. Or someone else picks something up from the floor. Very unfortunate. Well, this cannot stand. I suppose our friends will have to make a quick stop at the East Coast and let people know that this behavior is not tolerated. You said you've been fed information.
Yes, I have.
How close is the city to fall? Is it falling? And he looks at you like, you better give me the right fucking answer.
Federico pauses, again scratches underneath his neck, and then straightens up a bit, adjusts his collar. I'm not gonna lie to you, sir. Right now, the Cameral over there is doing a pretty good job of tearing itself apart. They aren't all on the same page, if you catch my meaning.
How unfortunate for them.
Indeed. They don't seem to be rallying behind their current prince and seneschal as much as they were your dear Jan.
Peterzoon has a way with people. Well, it seems I would have to make a phone call after this. Jan might have to go on vacation in New York. It's a pretty city to see. I'm pretty sure he misses it.
I'm sure he does. And I do recall that him and Bell worked together quite a bit extensively in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You said that you were already sending the other two. I suppose they're on their way in the private airline, correct?
Unless they have other plans, they are.
Would you like me to add them to this call?
Yes, please. This is a good opportunity. What you can do that.
Modern wonders of the modern age, sir.
Huh.
If
Fascinating.
you wish it, I can send some ghouls that are a bit more inclined towards the wonders of the modern age.
Oh, I think it's quite fancy. And he kind of tips the camera. Do that.
And Federico bends over the keyboard and taps a few things, and a direct line to a private jet heading across the Atlantic Ocean taps into the video feed, and we find two more individuals added to the call.
Dear Padawan, what do you want?
Well, you remember our dear friend Hodgstadt?
My lord,
How pleasant to see you.
are you on camera?
Yes, someone set this ridiculous device up for me to speak into nothingness.
That's of course quite extraordinary. How may I serve you, my lord?
You may serve me. I have something for you. You are on your way to Boston?
Indeed, we are estimate to arrive quite soon, a few hours more.
Well, you will have to make a stop. Another city acquires our attention, especially your attention. My dear Lucinda, and Mr. Bell's attention. Is he there?
Sir,
here.
we are in a very, very dangerous situation. We do not have time to waste. Boston might fall at any moment.
What
No,
Lucinda's trying to say is, why are we being detoured? We have
Because...
an urgent mission.
Oh, I understand that, absolutely, but New York acquires your attention at least for a couple of nights. The Sabbat is kicking in the door, and it seems that our good friends in New York are less than capable handling the situation for now, and I think someone needs to remind them why we have the Camarilla. And then they should start working together, or someone will be very upset.
They are Americans, my lord. It's like herding cats. No offense to you.
I'm taking Lucinda.
They might be Americans, but they are still open to reason and threats, I hope.
You see Theo come on camera as he's been off camera. He kind of budges up next to Lucinda. So, my lord, what is the situation over there in New York City?
Herr Di Padua, do you mind repeating what you told me to our fellow friends?
It basically boils down like this. Two of the Primogen have died. The Malkavian Primogen and the Bruja Primogen. It seems that the Ventru Primogen has become a traitor and killed the Bruja Primogen.
Huh.
Killing him in cold blood.
Interesting.
As well as, and I forgot to mention this, my lord, it seems that he has also kidnapped the current sheriff.
God.
Yes, and absconded with him to wherever it is the Sabbat are hiding their heads, I would assume. And as well as you remember, the traitor Marquez, who was dispatched, defected not too long ago. So right now the city is down for Primogen.
Okay, please explain to me, how did they manage to put people in places of position that as soon as things get rough, they turn coat? Is it
Perhaps
something in the water of New York?
Maybe something in the blood of New York, who really knows?
Forgive me, but this is not Polonia's normal MO. New York has been he is a battle leader. These sort of tactics speak of something different, perhaps.
My report's telling me that Polonia has not lifted his head in way too long. He might have moved out. He might be in Boston. That's my suspicions right now. With this kind of chaos, Polonia would have moved by now. He would have done something. It's perfect. It's chaos. People are turning on each other. People are deserting. The sheer destruction to morale it would do. If he's not doing something, he's not in New York. That's my opinion. And that doesn't explain why suddenly Boston is ready to fall.
Makes sense.
Boston is our priority at this point. We already have operatives on the ground there. We already have intel. New York can wait.
No, it cannot. Yeah, I don't want you to stay there for long. A couple of nights at most.
Then
There has to be a clear message to our fellow Camarilla in New York that they have to hold the city to the last drop of their blood. And go ahead.
Please do go on.
He raised a hand. Speak.
Has the prince called bloodhounds already?
Not that I'm aware of. Right now, the
Oh,
only
for
person...
the love of God, what is this prince? A 10-year-old? Why hasn't bloodhound called immediately? Oh, I can see why they
Right
need
now,
it.
the only person I'm a bit in contact with is the Seneschal, Silas.
He's your contact then. He's the one we have to talk when we get there. Oh, very
Yes,
well.
at the moment. I'm not exactly sure. He hasn't been exactly clear on where Prince Lennison has been.
Who is the prince, by the way? What is his clan, generation, sire?
Jacques Icebreaker Lennison.
Icebreaker.
What generation is he?
I'd
told you.
I'd have to bring it up. I know he's well over the century mark, but give me a moment and I can tell you everything.
Oh my.
Well, all the more reason for you to advise our young prince in the matters of war.
This isn't war. This is basic logic. They are traitors and no blood hunt is called.
Oh, I would be quite keen for you to figure out why that hasn't been done.
Oh, at this rate, he's a traitor as well. Why not?
Lucinda, my dear, it may be a position where resources appear to be stretched thin. They are maybe consolidating, and as opposed to attacking. Now,
You know New York better than I, so I will go with your advice. But we have to give them something to do. They have to get the heads of those traitors and put them on spikes for everyone to know. If they do not send a message, the prince will be seen as weak. And when Polonia is done with Boston, he's coming back for New York.
our resources on the East Coast are already stretched thin. This diversion to New York will be unfortunate, but we will do our best, my lord. Is there any other information that may be useful to us?
Well, don't forget that New York is also the financial center of pretty much the entire that region of the continent, as well as most of the world. We lose it, we lose our foothold in the stock markets.
Not tolerable.
Yes, but the Sabbat, fortunately, is not yet smart enough to capitalize on it. They're still mindless beasts most of the time.
Underestimate them, my dear.
I know.
They are not mindless beasts. They are a real threat, as has been demonstrated.
If the Camarilla had their heads screwed in the right way, they will not be a threat, but apparently they have not. And now we are being diverted to deal with these petty issues. How big is the population of New York, Theo?
Well over 3 million kind.
No, I mean back kindred population.
I could not say. It's a city in flux. I'd say less than 50.
My Lord Hartstad, will we have permission to institute martial law if required, by taking away the power of the prince until things are settled, or do you think that would send a message of further showing him as weak?
I would have to think about it.
I would advise that we go to support, not undermine. The last thing they need is a change of leadership at this late date. If the most that a Camarilla at large can offer is simple advice and motivation, then I don't see any reason why we would.
In
Perhaps
fact,
the friendly suggestion of allowing them to have free embracing rights.
what?
Mm-hmm.
More soldiers means more cannon fodder to put between you and them.
If
I'm
you're
not talking about-
suggesting shovel heading
No,
in New
no,
York,
of course not. I'm talking about raising real Camarilla upstanding citizens.
that cannot be done by the dozens.
I'm sorry, but I'll have to agree with Lord Hardstadt here. The most vulnerable of us are the new, those that are not capable of dealing with their beast. If Primogen have been turning traitor, who says what's going to happen to a horde of untested neonates? They will more than likely become more fuel for the Sabbat.
If this was the old ages, I would almost suggest to terminate the entire lineage of the traitors, but alas, I'm suspecting that would just weaken us, but we do have to make a strong position.
Sadly, those days are gone.
Unfortunately, it also means that until we find the traitors, we can't really send the message.
Well,
The
we know
message will
that-
be sent simply by our presence. If this is the only option we have, sending a message, then it'll have to do. But, unfortunately, our skills are required in Boston.
Indeed, that is why you are not deployed on the ground. That's why there will be no martial law. Your talents are required elsewhere. But I do want to emphasize one thing. you make clear to that icebreaker that I want the heads of those traitors, and I want the head of this little Schweinehund that calls himself Dupont, or I will personally call him, and that will not be a pleasant phone call.
Wait. Who is this Dupont?
The traitor. The Ventru traitor.
The Ventru trader.
I would suggest rather than murder him, my lord, we would take him in for interrogation.
Oh, I plan to make an example out of him. He will be interrogated, of course. But this would, of course, be preferable, yes, but if not, Ash works for me as well.
If you will, my lord.
Given your affiliation with him, you don't want him alive?
My affiliations?
With
His affiliations?
What he meant, Dipada, is that if we can bring him alive, we will, and we will make his unlife miserable. If we can't, death works just as well.
Well,
Exactly.
I'm sorry to bring this up, but what affiliations are these that you have with the
His Ventru clan.
Ventru Primogen?
His Ventru clan, that enough makes us look particularly bad, especially since
So is this
We
a
had high
situation
hopes
where
of Mr. DuPont.
is this a situation where all over the world clans are falling, and as soon as a member of the Ventru clan falls, it takes a Justicar and an Archon to go? I hope you can see why I don't think this is perhaps tactically sound.
As far as I'm aware, Mr. Bell, Mr. DuPont was not only a Ventru, he was also a very prominent member of the Camarilla, holds different titles, many of them in fact. His defection is a major blow to us, and it will be a major tool in the propaganda of the Sabbat.
indeed it's less a blow and more an insult, and it cannot be met and challenged.
And that is why I require you to pay a little attention to that. Did I make myself clear, Mr. Bell?
You did, my lord. Theo looks frustrated at this. He thinks the Ventru are putting more worth in themselves than the other clans, but he says nothing.
Federico sits forward. I'll make arrangements for you two to be picked up with the proper amount of security that you need. And should I prepare an overday stay just in case?
I have certain contacts in New York we could make use of.
Yes,
It'd
by
be
the
nice
way,
to visit the city again.
while you're at it, Padua, can you get me files and information on all of these very interesting people? I want to know them very well by the time I'm landing.
I'll have an entire set of dossiers prepared for you as soon as I can, my lady.
Also, Mr. De Padua,
Yes.
and for the two of you, I share the view that Polonia might have left the city. So I want to know everything we can about who is there now.
They're
Knowing our
hiding.
enemies half the battle.
I'll get in touch with our Seneschal in New York. Inform him that you wish to have as much intel as possible on your desk before sunrise.
Good. And I will remember the seneschal name. What was his?
He goes by Mr. Silas.
Silas. And you see Hardstead actually writing something down on a piece of paper, putting it neatly on his desk. Good.
Let's settle it then.
It is settled then. I wish the two of you good luck in Boston, and be safe. There's a lot at stake here.
Of course, my lord.
Your concern warms my heart, my lord. And with that, the Skype message is terminated before the reply can be given.
Federico will nod one more time to Hushtet, my lord.
Yes. Goodbye to you. And Harsha just stands up while the video call is still on, and you can just hear him shouting in the background, "Dieser gottverdammte Schweinhund!" before he disappears from the call.
And there we end our scene.